after this episode, I think I can understand Sota's character a little bit more. It makes a lot more sense now why he held back, because the emotions he felt and what he explained in this episode, I don't completely understand everything he felt, but I do understand some things, because I have actually been through a similar experience. When he felt that jealousy in his soul, his very being, it's one of the ugliest emotions in our very being as human beings. And I feel like all of us, in some point in our life, we have all experienced this emotion. We all have. And maybe for something very small. Maybe you have friends you play with on games and they're better than you, and you know this in your mind. You won't ever admit it, but you know in your mind like your friends are better than you and you're jealous because you can't be as good as them. Or there's people that play sports that you wish you were like. This close friend of yours that plays sports and you wish you were like them. You're jealous. Or you have someone that is close to you, maybe a family member that has this job that you wish you could have, but you can't have. You never had that chance to have. Jealousy is something that can destroy people. It's a very ugly emotion to have. And that's exactly what Souta went through, and why he blames himself for the death of someone he truly cared about, and why he carries it with him to this day, and why he didn't want to talk about it. Because emotional trauma, mental trauma, is something that can get really deep within you, and you can't get it out. It's not something that just disappears. It could stick there for a long time, and it takes a lot of time and effort to overcome something like this. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's not others that can really get you out of this. Maybe they can push you down the proper path, but at the end of the day, the one that will really get you out of that is yourself. And that is what he's been going through for such a long time. And after so many years, it's built up. It's clearly built up. As time goes by, months, years go on, decades, whatever, those emotions, if they're really in you deep, they're not going to disappear. And actually, over time, they're going to fester and get much worse, which we have clearly seen with Sota's character. Let's go back to the first episode for a second. Souta, in the first episode, we clearly see he has an interest in anime, manga, light novels, games, stuff like that, and we see he still has an interest in art and all of that. But he states that he doesn't really draw anymore, or do anything like that. He's kind of like shelved that, and what this represents is the fact that he feels upset when he tries to draw because of the emotions he felt when this person that he cared about died, and how he feels responsible. Now, maybe at the end of the day, him stepping up and saying some stuff online to defend the person he cares about might have changed things. Maybe not. We have no idea. Honestly, that's just how the world works. And that's just how it is. The past cannot be changed. What is done is done. What you say, what you do, what is done is done. Nothing you do can change that fact. Unless you invent a time machine that can alter reality, then yeah, it's just not possible. So whatever decision you make is what happens. And so he cannot change what he has done. And so regardless of looking at that, it still does not matter. In the grand scheme of things, even if he did fix it, or like he would have said something, she still might have killed herself in the first place. For someone to kill themselves, it would have to have been something to where they already had those thoughts within their mind. They were a type of person that maybe already had those emotions within themselves. That's not something that just comes out of nowhere. It's definitely something that you feel within yourself and you probably think about, and then you might try to suppress with something else, but then they resurface once again. And judging by what we got here, I don't know if the writers of Recreators were going to dive into this ever again, but if I had to assume anything, okay, I'm assuming that the main female character, not the main female character, the character in the, the flashback that Souta, was liking, you could see he was kind of like falling in love with and all that, but then he felt jealousy, and then she died, and he felt responsible. I feel like since she killed herself, we know in the first episode she jumped into a train, like she jumped right in front of a train and got hit. I'm assuming she already had these thoughts to begin with. I'm assuming she was someone that was already suicidal. And what probably suppressed these emotions she had was probably drawing. And I just want to give a little bit of information to all of you Chibits out there. Many of you might not be able to understand this or, you know, relate to anything that happened in this episode. And like I've already said in this episode review, I don't 100% relate with everything because I don't understand how it feels completely what Souta is going through. But I have been in a somewhat similar experience, so I can understand some of those emotions he feels. And so, when she killed herself, I feel like she was the type of person that had her art save her. And when people started to trash her, destroy her, bully her, and I know many like to say cyberbullying doesn't exist. Okay, say what you want, but my argument on this is there's many people out there, many people with different viewpoints and mindsets and stuff to where anything can happen. And so, I think cyberbullying is actually a legit thing. Many say you could turn and close the computer and all that, but sometimes cyberbullying doesn't end there. Because sometimes when you're getting cyberbullied for certain things, some of the things you could be getting bullied for online could be what actually makes you, you. What makes you able to wake up every morning and smile and feel happy. And I feel like that's what art meant to this girl. What it made her. This art is what gave her a reason to live. Gave her a reason to not think of suicidal thoughts and carry on and be happy. And this is perfectly represented when she reveals to Souta earlier on in this episode that she has no friends. She's very, in a way, socially awkward. She is someone that can't really communicate with others. She doesn't have really any friends, and she doesn't have anyone to talk to. And so when she met Souta, was able to talk about artwork and all of that, and meet him in public in actual real life, it was like a change for her. It's like, holy crap, her life is changing for the better. I mean, it's becoming much better. And so she obviously didn't have anything in the beginning. And like I said, probably what saved her from killing herself probably in the past, or stopped those thoughts, was probably artwork. And when she found Souta, that was amazing, because she had someone she could talk to, and she was moving on past this darkness in her life. But when people started cyberbullying her, putting her down, putting down her artwork and all that, saying she is stealing things, and just, you know, tracing things over other pictures and stuff, that probably hurt her completely. And even if what was going on was true or not, like, we don't know. Regardless if it was true or not, the fact still stands is what she was doing might have made her her. For instance, made her live. And when all this came crashing down, we don't get the exact details because obviously we didn't get to see the entire backstory. But we got to see the start of it, what led her to jump in front of the train. Most likely, from my understanding, she probably tried to talk to Souta. And Souta realized he was feeling this dark emotion of jealousy, this ugly emotion. And basically, she probably tried to talk to him. She probably tried to talk to him, say, like, can I draw for you and all that? Can we hang out? And he probably shafted her to the side. He probably didn't want to talk to her. He probably gave her the cold shoulder, or even probably called her a faker, someone that steals artwork because of his jealousy. And that probably was the driving point to where she killed herself. Because it wasn't just the fact that maybe what made her continue living was her art, but after that, she was able to find someone that accepted her. And when that very person that accepted her just forced her out and said, like, basically, fuck you, that pushed her over the edge. And so, that's what I think happened. It wasn't just the fact about the art, but it was because of probably Sota's reaction, and probably what he said to her, when she was probably trying to talk to him about what she's been going through, these issues. So, yeah. Jealousy is an ugly emotion. It's something that is in us all. I admit I have been jealous in my life, and it's a very ugly emotion. It's not something I am proud of, and I think many of us can agree. Jealousy is not something we should be proud of, but that's what it means to be human. We all face those emotions, these dark emotions within us every so often when it comes to certain parts of the year. That's just how it is. That's how life works. It's fucked, but it's how it is. And so, yeah, I feel bad for Souta now, and I gotta admit, I really like the character of Souta. He's very flawed. He's a flawed character, and now seeing his backstory, I can understand now, and I accept him for him now. And I hope he overcomes these problems that he's faced throughout his life. I hope he betters himself, because it's sad to see someone like him go through that. I mean, even if he is responsible or not responsible, it's just sad to see him in that type of state. He needs to move on with his life and understand that even if he's sad and he wishes he could change things, there's nothing he can do. It's time to move on and live your own life instead of living it for someone that's already gone. That's just my viewpoint on it. So, moving on to the other topics and getting off the depressing part of this episode, let's talk about the scene that really blew my mind away. And that is, Shinji. Kanoya, or whatever. I think that's his name, Kanoya. I like to call him Shinji because, Shinji from Eva. But basically, Kanoya, I think that's his name. I hope that's the correct pronunciation name. But Kanoya, he had a combo with our main male character, Souta. You gave him, this pep talk and all that, kind of trying to put him down the proper path. And I like how he stated he wanted to go back to his world. And he even mentioned that if he was to go back to his world, he would be very restricted. And I like this. I like how he acknowledges the fact that if he was to go back to his original story, he probably wouldn't have free will anymore. Okay, it's like this. When we write books and stuff, or write games and all of that, it's kind of like we're shaping the destiny of these characters. We're making them do what we want them to do. It's like they don't have control of their own self. It's like that is destined to happen. No matter what, they're destined to succeed or fail, or these people are destined to die. No matter how hard these certain characters try to keep these certain characters alive, they're destined to die. And that's just the fate of how literature is. And the character admits, Kanoya, I know that my series would be very restricted, and I would be restricted as a person, but he's like, I would like that. I would like to have a path to where I knew I could accomplish something, and I could be the hero or whatever. And that was a very interesting perspective, but it also shed some light on some of the other characters of this series that might not want to go back, because they realize when they do go back to the world, they won't really be their self. They won't be what they are right now. They'll be restricted. They won't be what they could be. And they now have a taste of freedom. So I like how this series kind of dived into that. How a character would react if they now had freedom. And would they give up that freedom? Or would they continue to stay where they're at now? That is a very interesting topic. It's really cool, and I like how that was dived into with this episode. But to go one step further, though, I also do like the scene when the character Kanoya, he admits that the reason why he thinks the gods are amazing, or our creators of the world are amazing, is because they're able to write heroes. Without them, we wouldn't have superheroes or heroes. And they're able to write stuff like that. They're able to, write stuff to where a world can be saved. And so he's very thankful he was brought into existence, even though his world is restricted and it's destined to happen in a certain way. Basically, it's stating he's proud that there's writers like him. Even if they're based on entertainment or whatever, without creators or the gods, they wouldn't exist and a world wouldn't be there for them to save. So he likes how he was given a purpose at the very least, and how all the characters in this series are given a purpose. They have some role to play. While he says in the world of the gods, they are not restricted. They can do whatever they want. They can play any role they want. They might not succeed, but they can play any role they want. And he's like, that's the difference between gods and us. We're destined to be heroes, while you can shape your own destiny. You can be whatever you want. And I do love this series. It really gets you thinking. It gets you thinking about certain things that you never would have thought about until you watch this series. And so I appreciate recreators and the writers of this series for doing stuff like that, because it's really cool. It adds a different layer of discussion to this series that honestly I can make separate videos for and really go in depth with, because of just some of the dialogue that these characters say. I truly really love how the relationship between Celestia and her creator and all that, how they were communicating like father and daughter. And the creator of Celestia was like, I definitely will write more books and stuff, or stories in your story, adding more world building and stuff, and not make her world so plain. And he's like, he needs to write her world much better, happier, as you can see. And it really shows, if a writer was able to meet their character and if they really care deeply about the creation, how much they probably would change their story. Like, think about it like this. If someone like Ashita Sui, okay, the writer of Tokyo Ghoul, was to have one of his characters, like Kaneki, come out to the real world, I wonder if he would feel upset, like very sad, if he realized what he has done to this person. Like, would he want the world to be better, or would Ashita get off to that and want to make it even worse? I don't know. I mean, Ashita could be rather sadistic, probably. But what I'm getting at is it makes you wonder, if a writer did meet their character, like their character came into real life, would a writer change their story to make it better for that character, to make them happier, because they now know they're making them suffer or go through hardships? And since the creation they made is technically their child, would you want your child to suffer? That really makes you think about everything. Like, it makes you wonder, if that was to happen, would a creator go that far to change their story because they wouldn't want, like, their child to suffer? It's cool. It's really cool to think about stuff like that. Recreators is such a thought-provoking series that I love. It's definitely one of the best series from Spring of Anime 2017. So, besides all of that, though, other things in this episode, besides Souta and all of that, basically, that's about it. I mean, we just have an update status on Celestia and how she's still alive. She's pretty much made a recovery, to how, you know, our main final boss villain guy, he lost his abilities thanks to, you know, what happened in last week's episode. So yeah, overall, it was a good episode. It was a very slow-paced episode, but it got the point across to what it was trying to accomplish. So, good episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.